welcome back to another episode of Bibles, Babies, and Brows. My name is Shai and I am the HMIC, head mama in charge and creator of Bibles, Babies, and Brows. This is a platform and a community for Christian moms to help them flourish in their marriage, motherhood, and entrepreneurship while keeping Christ at the center. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about failure. And this is something that we have all experienced one time or another in our life. And if you haven't, you definitely will. It's inevitable. But we're going to be talking about 5 different ways to be able to help you deal and recover from failure. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So before we jump into the different ways to be able to deal with failure, let's define what it is. Failure is the state or condition of not meeting a desirable or intended objective and may be viewed as the opposite of success. As we look into the different ways, number 1, I had to realize that failure is not my identity. And I think far too often when we experience failure, we allow it to become a part of us. We allow it to attach itself to us. And we have to realize that God never called us a failure. No matter how many mistakes we made, no matter how much we have done wrong, God never calls us a failure. And we have to get that out of ourselves. We have to realize that failure is just a moment. It's just a setback. It's an experience, but it does not define who we are, and it does not define our life. It doesn't change who we are. Whether I succeed at doing this or doing that, it does not change who I am. Whether I fail at doing this or that, it does not change who I am. I'm still me at the end of the day. And failure is just a moment. So we have to stop allowing failure to become a part of us. Stop allowing it to define our entire lives and know that it is just for a moment. It is just for a moment. Don't see yourself as failure. Just see it as a setback. Number 2, we have to use failure as a way to grow. And I think a lot of times we allow failure to make us discouraged. We allow it to make us feel defeated. We allow it to make us become stagnant. We allow it to make us become fearful and not want to do anything because we're afraid of that feeling of failure. But we have to use it in a way that helps us to grow. Instead of looking at it as, oh my gosh, like I messed up, I did this horrible thing, I didn't succeed and I didn't accomplish this goal or whatever it may be, you have to ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? What is this setback teaching me, and how can I move forward from this? How can I move forward? What is going to be my next step? Ask yourself, what could I have done differently, and what can I do differently in the future so that this doesn't happen again, so that I don't experience this again? And realize, okay, how can I put this into action? We have to ask God to change our perspectives on things and stop allowing certain moments in time, our lowest moments, to be able to define us. But we have to allow God to change our perspective and teach us. Ask God, what is it that you're trying to teach me in this moment? And help me to put it into action so that I'll be ready and prepared for the next time this situation may occur again. So definitely use failure as a way to grow. Number 3, embrace and recognize your emotions. And a lot of times when we feel failure, it's attached to feelings of anxiety, of shame, of anger, of sadness, of embarrassment, of so many different things. And those feelings don't feel good. Nobody wants to feel those things. When I'm embarrassed, I try and run as far away from that embarrassment as possible. I try to hide those feelings. When I'm feeling sadness or when I'm feeling shame or guilt, I don't want to feel those things. So I'll try and hide and cover it up and bury my feelings. But you have to expose those things. Whatever things that you try and hide, you'll never be able to heal from. So in order to move forward from failure, you have to be able to embrace and recognize and acknowledge what it is that you're feeling. Hey, I'm feeling embarrassed because what I thought was going to happen didn't happen. The goals that I had set for myself I didn't achieve. You know, I had so many different plans for my life. You know, I just turned 30 a few months ago, and by the time I turned 30, I wanted to own my own house. You know, I wanted to be further in my career, as far as in my business and everything. I wanted to, so many different things, so many different goals that I had. And so when I turned 30 and the list that I had, I couldn't even check off a lot of those things that I wanted to accomplish. I felt so much failure. And I felt embarrassed. Like, you're 30 and you haven't done this yet. You're 30 and you haven't accomplished this yet. You haven't done this. And I felt shame because I'm like, I should be further. I should be this. I should be that. But I think a lot of times we put these unrealistic expectations and we set these unrealistic goals that God has never called us to, or we set it on our timeline, and God is like, well, that was your timeline, not mine. So you may have said 30, but I said 35, or I said 40. You know, so we have to realize that we have to really just recognize our emotions and embrace them, and know when it's us making these unrealistic goals, and allow God to really just lead the way. Allow Him to lead the way so that He can heal us and so that we can move on and grow from these things. Number 4 is accept responsibility for your role in your failure. And a lot of times when we don't accomplish something that we want to, we blame it on other people. Like, I could be like, oh, well, I didn't buy a house yet because, you know, this person did this, or this happened to me, or, you know, whatever the case might be. We always try to push that blame on someone else instead of accepting responsibility. I didn't meet that goal yet because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. You know, I didn't do this because I didn't do this. You know, whatever the case might be, but we have to take responsibility so that we will be able to learn from the next time, so that we don't keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So it's how can you accept responsibility? What was your role in the reason why you didn't accomplish what you didn't accomplish? What was your role in that? Did you not, if you say, hey, I want to lose, you know, 50 pounds this year, and the end of the year comes and you've only lost 2 pounds, you have to take responsibility for that. What was your role in not losing those 50 pounds? Were you eating out every day? Were you eating foods you weren't supposed to be eating? Were you eating sweets? Were you drinking soda? Like, what was your role in that situation? So that the next time when you do set another goal to say, hey, okay, for the next year, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. How are you going to be able to accomplish that goal and not make the same mistakes over and over again? You have to take responsibility so that you will know how to deal with things and what direction to go for the next time. Number 5 is face your fears of failure. And this has been something that has been hard because fear makes you stagnant and it makes you comfortable where you are. And so when you are forced to face your fears of failure, you're forced to get outside of your comfort zone. And I know for me, in my first business, launching things and it didn't work out and nobody was buying these things that I was putting out, and I was getting discouraged and feeling like such a failure in my business and all these different emotions. I was afraid to actually create new products because I'm just like, well, what if this doesn't work? Or what if no one buys this? Or what if I just wrote this whole book and nobody orders the book or pre-orders the book and stuff? And so it allowed me to just become stagnant and stuck in my comfort zone. I didn't want to try new things because I was afraid of things not working out for me. But we have to allow ourselves to step outside of our comfort zone and know that whatever happens is God's will. You know, maybe the reason why no one bought things because I didn't market it right. You know, maybe I wasn't, you know, on point with my branding. Maybe, you know, I didn't talk about it enough. Maybe no one really knew about it. You know, whatever, I don't know, whatever the case might be. But we have to allow ourselves to not allow fear of failure to make us afraid to try again. I don't care if it takes you 50 different tries. Keep trying until you get it right. until you see the fruit that you're wanting to see, until you see that vision come to pass. Keep on trying. Do not allow fear to allow you to become stagnant and to stop you from doing what God has called you to do. So I hope these 5 ways to deal with failure were helpful. I know that, we will all deal with failure, whether you're dealing with it now, whether you have it in the past, or whether you will in the future. We all deal with some form of failure at some point in our lives. But just know that you are not your failure. Your failure does not define you. It is just a moment in time. I encourage you to look up who God says you are. God never calls you a failure. No matter how many people in the Bible sinned and made mistakes over and over again, He didn't call none of them a failure. He didn't say you are this, you are that. No, He still loved them. And, He still had a plan and a purpose for their life. Whether you get things right on the first try or not, God still has a plan and a purpose for your life. And failure is all a part of that plan. Failure is not meant to break us or discourage us or to cause us to really become broken, but it's to make us better. It's to mature us. It's to help us to grow. It's to help us to learn. It's to help us to be able to see things from a different perspective. Ask God to really teach you what it is that He wants you to learn in that season, in that moment. And don't allow it to define who you are, or don't allow it to define the rest of your life. So with that being said, I'm going to drop some scriptures down below in the description box. So if you guys want to take a look at those, some different scriptures on dealing with failure as well. I hope these ways were helpful. If you guys have any more, please comment them down below. And I will see you guys next week. And don't forget to subscribe.